Hey everybody, welcome to the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast, dedicated to raising awareness, sharing IBD stories, and offering support for those with Crohn's and colitis. Together, we can share knowledge, experiences, and help show the world the many faces of IBD. Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today for another episode of the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Gish, Crohn's warrior since 2006 and lifelong fitness fanatic. My guest today is Nathalie from Gutsy Feeling blog. Nathalie was diagnosed with Crohn's 10 years ago at the age of 11, and throughout the years she's gone through waves of remissions and flares, with the last few years being her worst and what led to a bowel resection this past summer. Nathalie is an architecture student, a blogger, and Crohn's advocate who focuses on self-care, self-love, meditation, and gratitude. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nathalie, and welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, as we know, every Crohn's and colitis story is different. Why don't you go ahead and start by telling me your Crohn's story and how your diagnosis came about?
Yeah, so like you said, I was diagnosed when I was 11 years old. So that was 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years ago now. And leading up to my diagnosis, we weren't really sure what was wrong with me. There was a lot of issues with like my weight, and I was having like bowel problems. But essentially, I just kept having these like sore throats, but they never really were sore throats. So I was on and off antibiotics, and basically nothing was getting better until I started getting really high fevers, and my throat was closing because there was so much inflammation in my throat. And so finally I was like admitted to the hospital, and I was there for about 4 days until they gave me medication, prednisone, and it kind of stabilized there. It was kind of rough for quite a few months, and we tried a lot of different like options. But like even compared to what the medication is now, like I was on a very mild medication compared to what I'm on now, and what I think we've really gone through strides with medication, even in the 10 years that I've been diagnosed. But yeah, basically that was what my first initial diagnosis was like. It was pretty scary at like 11, but we got through it together, and I had like a good support system, and I went to a doctor that was 2 hours north of where I live. So I got a really good care.
Wow. Now, was IBD ever in your family, or were you the first one to have Crohn's?
There's people who had IBD in my family, but it was never really like my direct family. It was like my grandparents, siblings, kids, or like my second cousins type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so you mentioned that on your blog and kind of on your Instagram, you've mentioned that the last couple years have been rough, and you said you've been through a lot of different medications and different things, but you do seem to be in a good spot right now. So tell me a little bit about what it finally took to get you to the spot that you're at now in managing your Crohn's.
Yeah, so like you said, I had a lot of rough years. Especially, so I'm in my 4th year of university now, so it really started to get bad in my first year of university. And essentially, I don't know if it was the combination of the stress or whatever it may have been, but I started to get these really like tightening pains in my stomach, and it was really hard to describe to my GI. And I had just started seeing a new GI because mine had retired, my pediatric GI specialist. And so basically, we went through series of tests, and nothing shows up in a colonoscopy. The spot where I have disease could only be seen through an MRI. And so that was something that was really interesting, because for all these years, my pediatric gastro had only been doing scopes. And so he thought everything was clear, everything was fine. But there was still active disease, but we just didn't see it. And I wasn't really symptomatic, so we didn't really pursue it because there wasn't really a point to like keep testing if we didn't really have any symptoms. But anyway, basically when I saw the MRI, it showed that I had about a foot of active disease and scar tissue. And so in basically I started on Remicade in April of 2016. And basically I was on that for about a year, and that didn't work for me. In this time, I was also trying different diets. I was trying going gluten-free, dairy-free, and I found that it works sometimes, but it wasn't really like a solution. And then basically, I had an MRI the following year, still showing active disease. So we switched to Stelara in August of 2017. And I was on that until May of 2018 when they did my imaging, and the active disease had gotten worse, and the stricturing, I had a narrowing and stricturing in my intestine, my ileum, and it had gotten worse as well. And at this point, I was having pain every single day. I would basically get up, I would have to do exercise, I would have to, like, I basically had a smoothie for breakfast, soup for lunch, I had to exercise, and by 3 or 4 p.m. every single day, I couldn't move. Like, I was in so much pain and so much stomach distension. But basically, long story short, I ended up getting surgery in July to remove 10 inches of my small intestine. And now I'm doing amazing. I'm on Entyvio. I started that in August of 2018. And I've been doing really well. I still need to get re-imaged since my surgery and since I started Entyvio, but so far everything's been going great. And I think that a major part of why I'm in remission is because of that surgery. But I think it also has to do with my lifestyle. I try to make sure that I'm having a relatively stress-free lifestyle, even though, I mean, that's difficult with school and with other things. But I also try to make sure that I'm eating a good, healthy diet, especially because for over a year there, I was very malnutrient. Because I was literally having like a smoothie, and then I was having chicken noodle soup every single day. Like so it's like there's only so much you can get out of that.
No nourishment.
Yeah. So there's only so much you can get out of that. So I'm really trying to just really focus on my body. And I think that throughout those hard years, I really became very in tune with my body and what I need in order to live a good life. And I'm really in tune with when I need to take a break, when I'm doing well and whatnot. So hopefully that answered your question.
It does. And it's so awesome to hear that you're in remission and finally feeling so good.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about surgery, just for the listeners who might be out there who have not had surgery or might be facing surgery. What was it like for you? This was your first surgery. Tell me about your mindset. Was it hard to kind of prepare for that, and then get into a little bit about the recovery? Because I know you said you used yoga and exercise as a big part of that recovery. So kind of take me through that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, surgery, honestly, I wish I would have done it before, but honestly, I think that's what everyone tells me. I've talked to a lot of people who have had a similar surgery to me, or who have also had different surgeries, and they all say I wish I would have done it sooner. But it is definitely a really scary thing that you have to face in your life. And I feel like I was mentally prepared, more so because I knew that this was my best option. Because when basically I got to that point, basically only my two options were clinical trial medication or surgery. And I knew that I didn't want to do clinical trials. And so basically, I think that I was mentally prepared for that surgery, and I had a really good support system. My parents and my boyfriend and my whole family really helped me, not only in the time leading up, but also to prepare for the time after, because that was what stressed me out the most about my surgery. Wasn't really the surgery itself. It was making sure that I had the proper care, because I didn't know what to expect after my surgery, because it's different for everyone. So basically my surgery ended up going really well. I was in the hospital for 4 days, and then I came home, and I weaned off of pain medication as quickly as I could, just because I didn't want to be on too much pain medication. So I switched to Tylenol as soon as I could. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, when I was going into surgery, I was in the full mindset that I was having laparoscopic surgery, because my doctor told me that well, the way I understood it was that I would have laparoscopic surgery. But then when I was on the table, they had put me on the table ready to have surgery. They do a debrief with you before your surgery. They debrief everybody together, and they're like, major chance of open surgery, slight chance of laparoscopic. And I was like, oh, well, it's too late now. It's too late now. Like, we're doing it. So I was like, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a little bit of a loop, but I was like, I'm too far into this now. I'm not going to turn back. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that having open surgery definitely made it more difficult with the recovery, because, basically, I think that recovery, they always say about 6 to 8 weeks, and it definitely is about 6 to 8 weeks. I had it at the end of July, and I was back to school at the end of August. And I think that, yeah, and I was back to school then, and I also had gone back to work after 4 weeks of recovery. So at mid-August. But yeah, my work was really accommodating. My boss actually has Crohn's disease. And so, yeah, so I was really lucky that they were like super understanding, because it was my first internship with architecture. So I was really excited to do it. But then when I had to tell them like halfway through, like, I need to have surgery, I mean, what are they going to do, right? Like, I'm sure they felt terrible. But yeah, so I mean, in my recovery process, I really made sure to like take it easy, really take it slow. But I definitely used movement and food as a way to heal myself. So I started to make sure that I was eating whole food, but that I was taking it slowly with reintroducing food. And I also was doing a lot of yoga, and I started to do ab exercises. And when I say ab exercises, I mean, the first time that I started doing ab exercises, I was literally doing toe taps, and after 10, I would get exhausted and tired. So it was really definitely something that I had to work on. And even I remember, go ahead.
I was going to say, how long did you wait until after the surgery to start doing some of those movements and toe touch type things?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I waited until about 6 weeks after my surgery, because they told you not really to do much. I was doing like walking a little bit, not far, because I would get really winded easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, about 6 weeks, and I really, really did start slowly. And if I felt like I overdid it one day, I would take days off. I didn't want to push it, and it is a scary thing, because you don't want to hinder this, like the stitches, the stitches and whatnot. And I had staples that were in my stomach too, but those were removed 10 days after I had surgery. But yeah, so basically I really started to do it at about 6 weeks, and I took it really slow. And even by October, so I remember I was at a wedding in October, and I was really upset with myself, because my stomach was hurting. Like, I had pain in my scar, and I was getting really frustrated with myself. But I kept at it. And finally, I think by mid-November was when I really was back to full strength, back to not having to have pain when I was sitting up for too long. I was getting really bad back pain. So by November, I was really back to normal.
So that was about 4 or 5 months after the surgery, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, the most rapid recovery portion was about September. I was feeling really good. But to say that I was back to normal probably wasn't until November.
Yeah. Was that something you were you expecting it to take that long, or was that longer than what you were initially thinking as far as recovery?
I definitely didn't think it would take that long. I thought I thought like about 3 months I would be good and going. And that's why I was so frustrated. at that time when I kept, like, I would stand up and I would have really bad back pain and scar pain along my scar. Because I also had I can't remember what it's called, but my scar was raised a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially it meant that there was a lot of pressure on that one point of the scar. And so I think that that also caused issues that were unforeseeable. But yeah, one of the other things that I definitely did after my surgery at about the 4-week mark is I started using bio oil on my scar.
Mm-hmm.
And that has significantly diminished the appearance of my scar. And so that's something I would definitely recommend for people to do. I put it on night and day, or morning and night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that really helps to keep it lubricated so that it's not like drying out or scarring further.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So you're back to 100% now, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, let's get
Mm-hmm.
into a little bit more about the lifestyle that you've been talking about, because you've definitely made fitness and dietary changes. So let's start with food. As we know, food is so different for all of us with Crohn's and colitis. So tell me about what impact food has on your Crohn's, and a little bit about how you started changing, kind of how your diet has evolved, and what you're doing now with the way you eat.
So, for years, I mean, I have always been very open to holistic approaches when it comes to Crohn's and colitis and IBD itself. I've always thought that food definitely, like you said, affects people with IBD, but it affects everyone. So really, the food that you put into your body, it affects everyone. But for people with conditions like IBD and IBS, it affects them more, right? So for years, I tried different holistic approaches. I've been to naturopathic doctors. I've taken different supplements like turmeric, different enzymes, different things like that. And some of them work, some of them didn't. I still am on a lot of vitamins and supplements that I find help. I take probiotics daily, and I think that those really do help. And those have been like studies and proven that those do help people. And I think that those, my supplements in conjunction with my food have really helped to make a really good rounded system for me. But basically, I have tried a lot of different diets. And like I said, I did try going gluten-free, dairy-free to see if that made a difference for about 6 months. And I found that it did make some differences in some areas for sure. But I didn't think that it was substantial enough for me to continue on that path. But I think that one thing that I will say about this is that food can really start any type of new diet, any type of new supplement, anything that you're taking can really start to play and mess with your mind, because I would go through these cycles where I would go to the doctor or whatever it may be. I would get this new supplement or try this new diet. I would start it. I'd have all this excitement, all this hope to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 6 months, nothing has changed. And then you go into this sadness, or you go into this lull where you're like, well, what do I do now? Right? So I feel like I've been through that cycle a lot of times in my life. And I mean, it's different for everyone, right? Because like I said, I've had it for 10 years. It's definitely different for somebody who's only been diagnosed for a few years or been diagnosed for 20 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's something that needs to be considered a lot more, I think, with IBD, is that food isn't just something that you put in your body. It can also affect you mentally. And these diets and these treatments that we do try can definitely affect us mentally. But overall, I think like for food, I try to eat a very whole food diet, but I don't limit myself to just eating certain types of food. I try to eat everything in moderation. And something that I did struggle with for a long time is when I was before surgery, I was basically not eating any raw fruits or raw vegetables because those were very gas producing, and I had a stricture and I couldn't break those down like in my body.
Yeah.
And so coming back after that, I still get nervous eating salad because salad is the worst one, like dark salad, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I still get nervous sometimes eating those types of foods, but I think that I have like a meal prepping system that I do every week where I meal prep a bunch of vegetables. I meal prep some rice or some pasta. I make like Buddha bowl types of things. And I really think that when it comes down to food, it's really important to prepare in advance. I think meal prepping can change anybody's life. And I think that if you make it a priority, you will, it'll benefit you in the long run.
Especially when you know what foods are safe for you to eat, what you do well with. And then when you have those ready, you don't ever feel like there's an emergency. It's, you've got something. Right. And I am I'm right there with you on salads because lettuce, I think lettuce was the first thing I identified as bad for me. And I think I learned to dread salads, and I watch people eat them, and I'm like, how can you do it? But
yeah. And it's definitely hard too, because people will tell you, oh, like, that's so healthy. Like, a salad is so healthy. I try to eat all of this, all of that, like all these raw fruits and veg. And I'm like, that might be healthy for you, but it's definitely not healthy for a lot of people who have conditions like this. And I think that's definitely something people don't understand.
I think you're exactly right, because I can't even count the number of people that have told me over the years, like, just eat healthy vegetables and eat all these fruits and you'll be good and it'll heal, or try this watermelon diet. I mean, all these things where it's like, you're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, I know you're an essential oil lover, and I haven't had anyone on here yet talk about essential oils. I've dabbled in them a little bit myself, but I know that you're a big proponent of them. So have essential oils been a big part of your IBD management as well?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Those in combination with yoga, I think I got into essential oils probably a few years ago. And they have really helped not only with my IBD, but with anxiety and with sadness. And I think that they can really have a lot of health benefits to them. One thing that I will say that helped me the most with essential oils and IBD was in the time leading up to my surgery, there was very little I could do to help with the pain. There was very little I could do. And so basically what I found helped the most was a heating pad, going on that liquid diet, moving, so making sure that stuff was moving through my body, so exercise helped with that. And lastly, peppermint essential oils. Peppermint essential oil literally is my number one tip for that. It numbed the pain so much. It numbed the pain in the most natural way on my stomach. I would just rub it on my stomach, and the stomach distension would be like, my muscles would all relax. And it was honestly one of the biggest things helping me through that time. Beyond that, I mean,
did you mix it with like a carrier oil and then use a couple drops of peppermint when you would rub it on?
So I particularly used a blend called Peppermint Halo by Sage Essential Oils, and they are roller balls. So you don't have to do that. But if I was using, like, if I were to recommend it with other people, I would tell people to either test it on your skin with just a few drops, or if that reacts, use a carrier oil with peppermint oil for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think beyond that, I mean, I diffuse like lavender essential oil every night. I have certain blends that I diffuse during the day, like with lemon and citrus. And so I really think that they have a lot of benefit to not only your mood, but there's also certain blends that I will use if I'm feeling sick, which have like eucalyptus in them and lemon and a lot of different oils within them to help fight colds. And so I really do think that they have a lot of awesome benefits, and it's something that I've become very passionate about. over the years, especially because I saw how much that peppermint oil helped me through some of the hardest pain I've ever experienced, some of the worst pain I've ever experienced. And so I think that I became very passionate about learning more about different oils and whatnot. So
And the quality definitely makes a difference too. I know
mm-hmm.
early on I tried just using some cheap little essential oils, and it was basically just a smell. They didn't do anything, but I've
Mm-hmm.
played with a few and I got some better quality ones. And I did notice some good different. Peppermint oil is one I use, like when I was real constipated or just
Mm-hmm.
painful and distension. I've done that before and really enjoyed it. Is there a particular brand that you use or
Yeah.
anything you'd recommend?
I use sage essential oils, mainly because they are a Canadian company
Mm-hmm.
and they have stores. So essentially, there's a store that just opened in the mall near me. It used to be the closest one used to be where I went to GI appointments. So I'd go to my GI appointment, then go to the mall and get oils. Um, but yeah, basically, I really like that brand. I really like their message, and they are a very high quality product. I know that there is also Young Living and DoTerra, which are also two other good brands, and you can get those online. But yeah, you're definitely right. The quality of the oil definitely makes a difference, and it definitely, I wouldn't even recommend buying cheap essential oils because you don't know what you're getting because these aren't like an FDA approved type of product.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't really know what you're getting in those ones that are cheap. You could be getting something that isn't even, it could be a chemically like synthetic scent. It
Right.
could just not even be a natural product. And so I mean, they can be expensive, but I think if you even invest in just a few that, like a few, maybe like lavender, like a lemon or citrus scent and a peppermint, I think that
Mm-hmm.
those would go a long way.
That's perfect. Great little starter kit.
Yeah.
So you talked about using a heating pad and liquid diets and some of the essential oils. Do you have any other tips for the times that you've gone in and out of remission? Are there other practices or things that you've found that have helped you throughout the years?
Yeah, so I mean, I have definitely been on a low residue diet and a liquid diet. So
Mm-hmm.
the difference being, I mean, the liquid diet was mostly liquid, and low residue is basically you're just avoiding anything that is highly processed or that leaves a lot of residue within your intestinal lining. But mainly, I mean, it definitely depends on when you're picking the foods that you are like that are going into your body. I think it definitely depends on what your symptoms are. So for me, I was like, I when I'm in a flare, I typically get more gas and bloating than I would. Maybe some
Mm-hmm.
people get more like diarrhea or different things like that. Um, and so I pick foods that won't be producing those gas products. So I try to limit any vegetables that will cause gas in your stomach. I don't eat fried food like ever really. Like rarely I'll have something, but I don't eat fast food. And pop, those types of things. Those I would definitely avoid if I was in a flare. I like to use my heating pad, like I said, the essential oils, and I think really focusing on me. So I think this comes back to the idea of self care and self love, and really making sure that you are focused on your mental health as well as your physical health when you are in a flare, and being open and honest with the people around you, whether that be your spouse or your family or your professors or anybody, your employer, and really being honest with them and explaining what your situation is like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you are saying no to things that aren't required, or really just focusing on making sure that you are giving yourself enough time and enough space to heal, because flares can last. I mean, they can last forever, really, but they could last like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
could be a short flare. It could be a long term thing, but really just making sure that you're listening to your body is, I think, one of the most important things. And when you listen to your body, you're also making sure that you're taking care of your mental health at the same time.
Yeah, great, great tips.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, you're obviously very busy, architecture student, you're blogging, you're doing a lot. So how do you manage that stress in life as opposed to simply just talking about, I know a lot of people just say things like, yep, I need to control my stress, but it's hard to actually do. How do you find that balance in life and dial down the stress levels?
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely am very busy. I go to school 5 days a week. I write for my blog. One of the things I will say is that I have been fortunate enough to not have to have a job while I am in school. That has always been, my parents have supported me and helped me through these times to be able to pay for school. And whatever other debt I may accumulate, I will worry about later. But basically, I tried to not force myself to have a job because school is already so busy. And I knew that if I tackled a job on top of that, my stress levels would be way too high. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of started, well, not one of the reasons, but basically I'm hoping that as I move forward, the blog could maybe start to gain some sort of money or some sort of small amount of money, possibly to subsidize what a part-time job would do.
Right.
But basically managing the stress, I think that one of my biggest tips is time management. I use calendar blocking, a calendar blocking method on Google Calendars, whatever calendar system you may use. Basically, I block out time. And so I write down everything in my calendar. I write down what times I go to school, how long it takes me to get to school, what time I need to leave for school, all like everything. I make sure that I'm accounting for every minute of the day. But I also leave chunks out for relaxing or for hanging out with friends. I put those in the calendar too to make sure that I do account for time with friends, time with myself. But I think that really making sure that you find a system that will manage your time well. And I think that for me, I work better waking up early. So I get up at 7 right now, and I get up and I do my exercise. I have my morning routine, and then I start work in the morning because I'd rather have stuff planned in the morning where I can have more control. But I find that as I move through my day, people get in the way, things get in the way, things come up. And so I get less and less control about what I can do later on in the day. And so I found that really putting in like my blog writing or things that I want to get done for myself or any tasks or schoolwork at the beginning of the day so that I really make sure that I'm working efficiently. And when it comes to school, I think that I wrote a whole blog post on managing school actually in August of last year. But one of my top tips is definitely signing up for disability services. So making sure that you are signed up with them, and it's pretty easy for the most part. I've done it at 2 universities so far, and both have been easy and accommodating. But just making sure that you have that backup so that if you ever basically needed to take time off for a GI appointment or take time off because you are having a flare, you have an excuse and it's not going to be such of a big deal when it's happening. So basically being proactive in that sense, and also being honest and open with your professors. Like in the semester leading up to my surgery, I was super honest with my professor. I left frequently early from my classes because my class for architecture was until 6 p.m. and my body just couldn't take it until that time. And so I frequently left early, and I made sure that I was collaborating with other people, and that I was basically getting everything done earlier in the day. So I think it's really just about being honest and open if you can. I know it's hard, and it's taken me years to be honest and open with people about how I feel, because I always felt like, oh, it's my business, I don't want to tell people. But I really do think it's important to take advantage of the services that are offered at university, and also be honest with your professors because they just want to help you and allow you to succeed.
That's great advice. And I'll grab that link to the article you mentioned from your blog that you wrote.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the show notes because I think that's fantastic advice. I wouldn't even have thought about that. It's been years since I've been in school, but I don't think I even would have thought about going that route and looking for the support systems that are already there and in place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about your blog. Tell me kind of when you started it and why you started writing.
Yeah, so I mean, I started it in June of 2018. So some people might think, why did you start it then? You were in the worst pain of your life at that point. But honestly, at that point, I wanted to share my experiences with people. I wanted to share with people not only what I'd been through, but also remind people that they're not alone in the issues that they're facing and that there's other people around them who are going through similar experiences. Um, and so I really wanted to share my experiences, share the knowledge that I've gained, all the tips and tricks that I've learned along the ways. And I think that I wanted to be a message of hope, but also spread the importance of self-care, self-love, and yeah, those messages are really at the core of my blog. And I think that I wanted to share those ideas with the world. And I never thought that I would be able to reach so many people in such a small amount of time, or that I would gain so many relationships with other people who have similar experiences. And honestly, the community that I've gained through Instagram and through my blog is incredible because I go on to my Instagram and I'm constantly inspired by the people that I see and the the adversity that people are facing. And I really think that seeing all of these stories has allowed me to grow as a person because even if I'm having a rough day, I see, okay, that person's having a rough day too, or that person is going through more than I am. And I know that it's not a good way to always look at, oh, that person's worse off than me. But sometimes you do need to see that. And sometimes I think that it's important to see those things. And so I think that building this community has allowed me to share more stories, to share more tips. And I think that that is the main reason I want to be able to help other people and do so by sharing my experiences.
And that's so wonderful. I know from my own experience, it was about took me 10 years before I really started talking about myself, but
Yeah.
for all those years leading up to that, like I scoured the internet and I searched for what other people were going through and I wanted to know that I wasn't alone. So it is so
Mm-hmm.
important. So a big thank you for starting that and doing that. And I think you touched on something really important of just the community that's out there that,
Mm-hmm.
that's something I didn't really realize what a difference it made for me to just even just on Instagram and starting to follow more people that have Crohn's and colitis, what a difference that made for me and knowing that we're all out there and we all just want to help each other. So
Mm-hmm. For sure.
if anyone who's listening is not involved, that would be, I think, such an important thing that you touched on, that find that community
Yeah.
because it really is important.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest challenge you've faced since having Crohn's and how did you get through it?
Um, I honestly do think that it was my surgery and the time leading up to that. And like I've said, I got through it with the support of my family, my parents, especially my boyfriend, um, my amazing GI team. And I really think that that was how I got through it. I think that if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't have gotten through it so smoothly. And I think, like you just said, with the community, I think that after I had my surgery, I started to grow that community and I started to have more and more people around me on my Instagram, on my blog. And I think that they also helped me get through it because I even talked to a few people who had this similar surgery to me a few days after me or a few days before me. And so we were in a similar recovery process at the same time. And so we
Mm-hmm.
would talk and we would see how each other are doing. And I think that 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 was one of my biggest challenges that I ever went through in my life. And I think that having the community of support around me physically, but also in the internet world was really important.
Yeah, that's one thing that the internet really has made just phenomenal, is being able to connect people and serve that purpose.
Right. Yeah.
So is there one thing that you wish, as you've started to talk more about your own disease and be more active in the IBD community, is there one thing that you wish people who don't know anything about Crohn's and colitis, is there something you wish they knew but they don't?
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I wish people knew, and it's been said time and time again, is that IBD is not just a pooping disease. It affects much more than your bowel movements. It definitely affects you in many ways. It affects your mental health, your physical health, and the symptoms aren't always the same. And I think that is the main thing that I want people to know, that your symptoms won't always be extreme diarrhea or extreme constipation. They might fall in the middle. They might be completely different. So I think that knowing that there's so much variation in these diseases and being willing to understand that would be something that I think people should know. And I think that as we continue to educate people more about it, I think that people should know that even just showing that you are willing to learn about it goes a long way with somebody who is being affected by a condition like this.
Very well said. I agree 100%. So if people want to follow you and read your blogs and follow you on Instagram, where can they do that? Give me your just tell them where to go online and find out more about your story.
Sure. So you can follow my blog at gutsyfeeling.com, and basically you can subscribe. I send you a weekly letter with my blog post. I post every single Sunday, so you'll get it sent to your email. You can also follow me on Instagram at gutsyfeeling. And you can also follow me on Facebook at Gutsy Feeling. And I also have a Pinterest. Everything is at Gutsy Feeling. So, yeah.
Perfect. I'll put all of those in the show notes so that people can find you easily and get all that great information that you're putting out there and sharing.
Awesome.
So we covered a lot today. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to share with the community out there?
Honestly, I think we covered mostly everything, but mainly I just want to say, like, thank you for having me on, and I really hope that not only me, but everybody else who is doing things within the IBD community, like yourself, like other people who are putting out content, I hope that we continue to inspire people that we will find a cure, we will find better treatments, we will continue to live and thrive and live good lives with these conditions.
Very well said. I love that. 100%. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure talking with you. Lots of great information, and I really enjoyed it this morning. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have an IBD story, either as a patient or a family member that you'd like to share as a guest on this podcast, or if you have a topic you'd like to hear about, send me an email at crohnsfitnessfood@gmail.com. If you'd like to learn more about me and my Crohn's journey, follow me on Instagram using @crohnsfitnessfood, or visit my blog for in-depth articles about my struggles and victories with Crohn's through diet, fitness, and lifestyle at www.crohnsfitnessfood.com. And finally, remember, be strong, be grateful, and be the warrior that you are.